Next In.
Welcome to Next In. I am here by myself. I have gotten rid of Shane. We've finally gotten rid of him. Elena, it's going to be way more fun without him. So I am joined. Well, first off, this is obviously Next In. I'm Taylor Duncan, the host. Thank you guys so much for joining. Subscribe, like, do the whole commenting thing and everything else that you do on YouTube and all podcasts and stuff like that. So I am joined, really, really honored to be joined by Elena Searcy. She is the, let me say it right, Director of Product Design for PlayVS, formerly very high up in design at Twitch, Walt Disney, etc. So those are some smaller unknown companies. Not many people have heard of Disney, right? So Elena, tell us a little bit about your journey. I'd rather start hearing from you. And as you know, we do recruiting and we help people with career development and so on internally, our day job is. And so that's arguably the most interesting stuff to us. You've become ultra successful, in your career in the entertainment and gaming space now. So tell us a little bit about that journey, how you got into both product design, but also just in general technology and rose through the ranks and so on.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here and kind of share my story and just the industry and give some insights. I started out in early 2000s and it was like way before product design, app design, and anything like that. I honestly did not know what to expect from being a designer. I was fascinated by like print, and graphic design in general. So this is what I thought, like, I'm just going to be like doing magazines, everything that can be printed. And then, as you know, the .com started growing and iPhones came out and basically digital space exploded and graphic design went like way beyond like what you see when you open your eyes, like from your shower gel bottle to, your TV screens and everything else. So yeah, and I naturally was like very intrigued by the digital products, and my company back in Chicago was one of the few agencies that was doing microsites and early on mobile apps when back in the day when mobile was not useful but more kind of brand awareness. So I remember one of our first mobile app products was around Christmas, and we were doing basically putting Santa hats on your animal for one of the clients. So that was the app, and pretty much all the apps were like that. So it was pretty
That
fun.
sounds like the most useful thing that we could possibly have in this world.
Yeah, but at the time it was like I have the coolest job because everybody was like, "Oh, so what are you doing at work?" I'm like, "Well, this week we just did a bunch of Santa hats on cats."
Yeah, I find it interesting when I look at your career. So you started in Chicago. We'll talk about that in a second because I'm from Chicago, so I like to talk a little bit about Chicago. But when you look at your career, it's like Sears, which is like when you picture it, it's like many people, at least in my mind, maybe being from Chicago, that is as old school as it gets, right? Like the department store and Sears Roebuck catalog and all that. That was like the, I can imagine the people who were creating the design of the catalog, probably at some point someone's like, oh, this is probably going to all move online. And they're like, that'll never take off. You go from Sears to Twitch, right? Those couldn't be two more opposite ends of the spectrum of old school, new school. What was that like going from something that had such an old school feel and was kind of in a lot of ways being pushed out to something as new as Twitch or Disney or now PlayVS? And we'll talk a little bit about PlayVS in a second, but how did you transition from print to digital easily?
I think it's just like a common misconception right now in the design field. When you start designing like for one specific product, you get bucketed and it's very hard to pivot. Even in product design, if you start working on pet products, you're going to get hit up by all the other competitors that only do pets. So like, oh, you do exactly what we want. Well, when you're in art school or design school, you are trained to design for like agnostically. You should be knowing all the best practices. You should not be it doesn't matter what client you work for. You need to, like, it's like almost like asking an architect, like, do you build buildings with door? Can you build a school? You're like, yeah, I went to architecture school. I can pretty much build anything. So that was like very interesting, and this is kind of like one of the advice that I give to more junior designers is like, make sure you like what you start working in, because it's very hard as you progress in your career to like make changes, because you get immediately, oh, you do only automotive, or you only do entertainment and stuff like that. So unless you're super happy with it, make sure you diversify and like try different things, see what you like. And this is it's not only good to be versatile, but it also will help you in your career to get hired by a variety of companies. But yeah, same thing. It's just like in my mind, it was not a very difficult transition, because if you're designing for print, you have layout principles and just like the basic rules. And I think it wasn't like I got like teleported in time and I woke up and all of a sudden digital was like super, super happening. So it happened over time, and I was learning on the job as everybody else. iPhone came out, everybody had to use it, figure it out. Then like applications started happening. So same thing. So everybody kind of like was like slowly getting onboarded into it.
So is there, I guess my brain started thinking, I know in the video game space, especially when you're on the art side, pretty much everyone has an art station. That's your portfolio, right? So
Mm-hmm.
any art you've built for or created, you've for any game that you've done, you're going to post it onto your art station. It is your digital portfolio, and that's where a lot of people can see what you've actually done. Is there something similar for product design? Is there a
Yeah.
art station? And if not, you and I we got a company here that could take off.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Actually, there are several platforms. I think the most well-known is Dribble, triple B in the middle. This is a really good place where designers can upload kind of like a snapshot. If you work on a super secretive project and you can share only like a drop-down menu or a button without
mhm.
revealing what the project is, you can quickly submit it and people can get inspired, like it and just interact with it. And it's not only for UI design, but also illustration, motion, and whatnot. Just basically like little snippets of your work. And then second one is Behance, which is owned by Adobe, I believe now, and it's more of a case study platform. So this is where you can like share the story of your project. You still can do more segmented and fragmented views, but this is something that designers would use to share what this was the problem we were trying to solve, this was an opportunity, and this is what all the steps that we took to solve that problem, and this is the final product.
Yeah, because you said, hey, you get kind of typecast in some ways as like you're a designer in automotive, you're a designer in video gaming, and you really get stuck in a lot of ways. And probably to some extent, it's, hey, you've been at Twitch, so therefore you're in the, streaming / video game space, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just what you can do. But you've done other things, but a lot of people won't see past that. But if there was a portfolio to show, hey, let me show you the stuff I've done digitally, print, and in all of these different areas, it's going to help really show I can be versatile in other areas. So that's why I was like, in my head, I'm thinking you've done a lot of stuff, but I think some people might typecast as, hey, this is where you're at in product design, automotive, period. That's what you
Yep.
can do. And so that's where ArtStation, you can go and find someone who's done art, everything from stylized to realism, etc. So tell us a little bit about PlayVS. Well, what is it? What does it do? Kind of give us the TV commercial for PlayVS.
So PlayVS is a platform that powers scholastic esports competitions in the US. We do it through partnering with big game publishers, NFHS, and state associations. So basically, this is kind of like the combining the dots from every angle. Why it's great? Because as a coach, your job is to have interest in running an esport program. find participants among your students, register them, get them onboarded, and then scheduling and all the logistical stuff is handled by PlayVS.
Got it. All right. So you guys host large high school esports competitions. What's the biggest one that you guys have hosted so far?
Well, we have the regular the spring and fall season, and then the final one is PlayVS Cup. That is like the overarching, the biggest one. And actually, we had one of the winning team student went on a full ride scholarship to a college on Rocket League.
Wow. Holy cow. So what games are typically played in these esports at the high school level? So obviously Rocket League is Valorant.
Yeah.
What else is?
So Rocket League is really popular, easy, like easy to get started, not super complex. League of Legends was one of our original games. Nintendo titles like Mario Kart, Super Smash, Splatoon 3, Madden 23, Hearthstone. I'm sure I'm missing something. Yeah, and Overwatch is for Youth League because it's considered an FPS game.
So for you, what was the motivation to move into Play Versus? Was it this, hey, I want to be a part of something that was with the youth movement and fostering an opportunity for kids scholastically, or was it you saw the company with an incredible amount of growth opportunity? Or
It's interesting. I came to Twitch from Curse Forge, Curse Voice company that became Twitch desktop app. It's the one of the largest video game add-on platforms. So we got investment from Riot Games to build a voice communication client that is basically a predecessor of Discord. And then once we started looking at integrating Twitch streams, Twitch got interested and acquired Curse. And Twitch desktop app is what formerly used to be Curse voice app. So that's number one. That was like a very small company startup, like really fun. Just like I'm a big World of Warcraft player myself, so like I just had like personal interest and passion in it. My team got absorbed into Twitch. We had like really fun, I think 6 years, like build a lot of really cool features, build out the design system at Twitch, did the big rebrand in 2019. But I was kind of missing the smaller company, kind of like if you do fixer-upper houses, once you just finish your big grand project, you kind of miss like going out and finding something that like you can take ownership and like build from the ground up. So I missed the startup vibe, and pretty much everybody who joins the company, we have kind of an intro all hands, and one of the questions they've been asked, why are you joining the company? And I tell you that like probably 99% of people on that question, they're like, because I want to build something that I wish existed for me when I was in high school. It's like one of the most commonly answered, and that was 100% true for me. I've been playing video games since I was 7 or 8 years old, so I
oh wow.
wish that existed when I was at that age.
Okay. So now you're the director of product design. So I'm assuming you sit down and you're conducting a lot of interviews, you're looking at bringing on people and so on. What have
Mm-hmm.
you found to be the biggest challenge in talent acquisition, if you will?
From engaging people, or from which side?
So from just in general, you're at Play Versus, and we hear about this all the time. Obviously, we're recruiting
Mm-hmm.
agencies, so people come to us and they go, "Hey, I don't have the time for it. I don't have the time to go through thousands of resumes, screen all these people, sit down, make a decision." Other people, I'm just the challenge of getting a candidate closed has been really, really difficult for us. We can
Yeah.
get good people, but then there's so much competition that they're getting hit up by 1,000 other companies. What would you say has been your biggest challenge in general or pain point when it comes to trying to bring on the talent for your team?
Well, competition is definitely has been, it's like across the board. I think it's slowed down now, but even like 6 months ago, there was like a crazy race between all the FANG companies, and that was definitely an interesting thing. From a hiring manager perspective, I always find it interesting how to evaluate portfolio, because you have to identify somebody who is not only like shows up well in the interview, but also can do the work and actually like like identify a good portfolio, and then have like a good chemistry with the team. So there is like a variety of things that like check boxes that you need to hit. So just like balancing them out, I think is the most challenging thing.
So if you could give advice for, if you're picturing all these people come to me and I keep seeing a lot of similar mistakes. It's like it just seems every time I sit down with someone, or 2 out of every 3 people or whatever. What were some common mistakes of people you keep seeing in your interviews and as you're looking to grow your team?
I would say just not like fully knowing what you want to do, and it actually shows up like, oh well, I could do that, like not doing homework on the company that you're interviewing with. You don't have to go like full on like FBI style and just do like everything, but at least like check out the features, like so you can for design specifically, we have a design exercise that we like to run. It's nothing like crazy, just like to see how you would work as a team member paired with somebody. And usually it's an imaginatory task that's designed together. How would you tackle this problem? So surprisingly, a lot of people, and I know putting on the spot can be challenging for some, but it's very important for us, because if you don't vet people up front, sometimes it's unfair for both. Like as a candidate, you want to have a good experience in your role, and for the team as well.
Yeah, you mentioned not doing homework. Have you had people come in and they like almost don't even know the name of the company and they're like, yeah,
Oh
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Isn't that mind blowing to you? You're like,
Yeah.
it's a job interview. Like, I get it. I understand you may not know every employee that works here and the history of the company completely and so on, but you didn't even check out the website. You didn't even just go to the website. Like, this
Yeah.
isn't 1998. Every company has a website that's relatively transparent as to like what we do and at least our name. And they
Yep.
don't even do the basic homework to walk into the interview and not look like an idiot.
Pretty
It is
much.
pretty surprising because if you're coming to an interview, you're probably somewhat interested in the job.
Yeah,
Have you seen anyone?
I did have a reverse thing from a recruiter hitting me up and asking like, "Hey, John, I saw your profile and it looked great." I'm like, "I'm not John. You could have at least like looked up my name."
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time internally, and we're always saying like everything has to be personalized. I think, and again, you're in the technology space, so you probably have a pretty good feel for the extreme level of automation that can happen, right? And it becomes easy, and it's, hey, I'm going to send an email to all these people, and now there's 800 different ways I can do it with AI, where I can just hit a button and it plugs in a person's name and just sends it out to the masses. And it's like, that is so impersonal. So it's have you found any way to go, and maybe this is from a design perspective, of how to be digital and efficient, but yet also personal, and not say, hey, John, would you like a job, right? Because we're always trying to advance in that way to be efficient, quick, get to more people, but at the same time, making sure that we're sending the right people the right stuff, the right jobs, and we're targeting the right people. So for us, it's very, very highly personalized, high touch, because ultimately, if you came and asked us to go find you a product designer, we're not going to be hitting up people with the wrong name and someone who's doing product graphic design for print, because you're like, that's not what we do. Like, we are going to be very targeted in our searches. Have you found a way to balance efficiency with effectiveness when it comes to digitally reaching people?
Yeah, I believe in systemizing things and creating structure where possible. So I'm not a recruiter, but if I was doing it, I would identify what is the variable in my email and what is the changeable part. So the variable, the same that you want to communicate is about the company, so that can stay the same. But then everybody likes to be noticed and, have like a personal touch. So the intro with "Hey John," you can look into the person's profile. And actually, I've seen some recruiters do a good job saying, like, calling out my, the recipient's background and some like highlights of the career and stuff. So something like that, I think, is would go a long way. But basically, finding areas that can be automated and structured the same, and then some that you would need to get creative.
I think that's great. That's what we teach it to. I think we are the best at it. I think Next Level is the greatest at it of all time. Like, we'd get all the way down and look at the publications you've had and stuff like that, and then have some basics that, we would be reaching out to a lot of people. So, because there is some things, like you said, that are systemized, but hey, we took the time to know who you were, what your career has been. That's why we're reaching out to you. So this whole idea still goes to this. We're pursuing a job in design, product design. And I know that's something that obviously anyone listening who's in product design is probably more junior than you and going, hey, I'd love to reach the levels she's gotten to. Holy cow, this is so successful. She's gone from startup and got acquired into the coolest company in the world, Twitch. She now has moved into the director of an awesome company that's growing and booming. I want to have that similar career trajectory. So if I'm looking to pursue this career in product design and I want to follow in your footsteps, what kind of pieces of advice could you give someone who's maybe 10 years prior to you, going, how do I get to where she's at in 10 years?
I think it's important to stay curious and passionate, and obviously I don't know what the statistic is. You probably know more of the startups that go public and get bought, but it's not very high. So you need to be very aware of that and mindful that like failing or like not getting to that immediately is okay, and just like trying again. And then I think as a product designer, attention to detail and problem solving. A lot of times, you have to put yourself in the shoes of your users and really get like immersed into it. So it would be helpful if the products you're working on have some interest to you, or you could envision yourself. For me, entertainment and video games come very naturally because I'm naturally passionate. I'm like a gamer myself. At work, we very frequently get like derailed into like, oh, did you see what like the new stuff in Overwatch came out, or the new expansion? So we like everybody plays something, and it's like a very natural fit. So it's extremely helpful if you're working on something that like you can relate to and be a user yourself.
I think that goes to, and you mentioned this, why you even moved to PlayVS, and something that's when we find really important is the mission, right? So like you said, every person that comes, or not every, but 90% of the people that you guys bring on really identify well with your mission. That's, I like doing the video games. Man, I wish this was around for me as a kid. If this company existed when I was a kid, that would be even greater. And that's a big part of when we go recruiting. We want to identify not just a technology match of, oh, hey, you're a Ruby on Rails developer, they need a Ruby on Rails developer. Because ultimately, we don't believe that's real success. And if it is, it'll be very short term. That person's not going to want to grow with the company and help that company get acquired. They're just doing it for a job.
Yeah.
And really, it's that mission alignment, I think, is really important.
It's like matchmaking in a way, almost.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. It's not just, hey, I like, blondes or brunettes, or I like, this basic. It's much deeper into the mission alignment. There you go. So we're like the eHarmony. Really gets deep into like 800 different questions, right? We're the eHarmony of recruiting. So, but it's important, as you know, when you bring someone onto your team, if they just are a good product designer, but they don't buy into the mission of what PlayVS is doing, they're not going to go home and think about it. They're not going to be going out to dinner with friends talking about new, interesting ways of making the design cooler. They're doing their job and they go home.
Yep.
If they don't buy into the mission of what you guys are trying to do. So where do you see PlayVS in, I don't know, 5 years?
Oh, hopefully in every school. I love video games. Challenge with any um, activity in high school is you competing for the time, that also like a bunch of other things are competing in regular sports and all the extracurriculum stuff. So I think just like getting esports recognized as a more serious activity, because you can compete on a state championship level and be recognized. It's like absolutely possible. So just like spread awareness, making it more spread in high schools, more inclusive, and just like share video games with everybody.
And how can we help? How can we help drive that? Like if you're going, hey, we get about 10 to 100 million people watch this every single week. It's not that high, but how could we, the whole community, go, how can we get alongside Play Versus and go, this is an area we can help deliver that, get it into more schools, etc.
I think one of the you guys as a recruiting company uh, could help out is a lot of parents do not realize that esports as a job market is actually really huge, and it like
Yeah.
spans, and I'm not talking about pro players is probably top 2%, but the entire ecosystem of jobs that esports create, and they are actually just the same jobs as like any other company. You have finance, you have recruiting and people ops, you have marketing, you have software development, and just like everything else that any other company would have. I don't think there is a lot of exposure and information around it for to educate people that are pursuing careers and fields. So any kind of outreach would be going a very long way.
Yeah, I totally couldn't agree more. We work actually pretty closely. We're in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
We work pretty closely with the Williamson County Entrepreneurs and Innovation Center, EIC, and they are working on building a little bit different. It's not quite esports, but it's this. They're building a program for sophomores through seniors where they can learn video game development. It's like
Mm-hmm.
actually a class, and a lot of, again, they have that same issue of like a lot of parents don't get. There are jobs in this. This isn't just my kid eats. He eats and sleeps, and then all of a sudden he plays video games. And that's all he does. Like that can become a career. Maybe not
Exactly.
just an hour a day. It can actually be a real career where there's audio engineering. Heck, there's recruiters, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
recruiting, there's salespeople, biz dev people, as you said, operations, finance, there's all of those things inside video gaming, and it's a huge industry. And now there's this esports component of it. And we've actually on Next In interviewed people who are running other forms of esports businesses, whether it's esports locations, and
Mm-hmm.
they have actual in-person esports locations in Canada where people can go and compete and play at. We've had other people talk to us about wanting to launch really large national tournaments, etc. And when you do that, it's not just the players sitting in the arena, it's the people who are selling ticket sales, the people who are managing the streaming channels, all of that stuff
Yeah.
that goes with it. It's a much larger ecosystem than, hey, the person who just plays and the broadcasters.
Yeah, and I
A
don't
lot
think
more.
people realize that like at all, because even when we interview coaches, one of the pain point that they bring up is having getting help to legitimizing and like making esport to be on par with other traditional sports.
Yeah, with football, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
you go for and I think that's probably the coach, and then it goes up to the administration and the school boards and so on. I think it's a great way to create a new opportunity for a student who maybe not great at football. That was something I did, but great at something else, and keeps them involved and allows them to be a part of something, so that at 3 o'clock when the bell rings, they go do something that challenges them, pushes them, maybe not physically like a football or basketball would, but now more mentally, and it forces them to stay engaged, be a part of a team, take instruction from a coach, stay there until 5 o'clock, so their homework time is less, but still have to get it done. It's going to foster them to be a better adult, whether they
Yeah.
stay inside the gaming space or they go become a doctor. It's going to create them to be a better adult because they're used to that challenge of being, part of something past 3 o'clock.
Yeah, no, we actually have been having reports from coaches on positive effects of esports on the students, like across a variety of skills, starting from communication, leadership, teamwork, you name it. And during COVID time, because everybody is so isolated, like mental health was tremendously like helpful to be a part of, a community that has like-minded interests.
Yeah. So let's get to some personal fun stuff. You said you lived in Chicago. How long did you live in Chicago?
8 years.
Did you
Got
like
too
it?
cold. Love the food, love the summer. Was not a big fan of winter, and I'm from Ukraine originally. So California felt like a better fit for me.
Yeah, I lived there for 40 years, and I would completely agree. Where did you live in Chicago?
I live in Boys Town for the most part, so Lakeshore and Addison, Belmont and Broadway
Okay. So did
area.
you ever go to a Ukrainian restaurant in Chicago?
Oh, for sure, it has like the best. I think in the
What's the best
U.S.
one?
I did not go to a restaurant. They had a bunch of grocery stores with like pre-made food, so that was like.
I will say Tryzub, Tryzub,
Mhm,
Ukrainian restaurant in Ukrainian Village is fantastic. We took our whole family there. We do a big family ethnic thing each year. We
mhm,
choose a different ethnicity, same date every year. I've done it since I was 6 years old. Now it's with my siblings are all older and our kids and
yeah.
stuff. And we did Ukraine this year. We went to the Ukrainian Village, went to Tryzub. It's fantastic, phenomenal. And they actually allowed us to make our own. They're not called pierogies. What are they called?
Вареники.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
those. I'm not
Yeah.
going to say it. You said
Yeah.
it.
No, I have my parents staying with me right now, and I pretty much have that restaurant in my house.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was really, really, really good food. All right. So now you're in LA, right?
Orange County.
Orange County. All right. So if we were to go vacation to Orange County, and when I say we, it's typically Shane and I, but it's me now. So if I come out to Orange County, what is the one thing I have to do?
I would probably recommend visiting Huntington Beach, the Surf City, USA.
Huntington's
Walk,
pretty cool.
yeah, walk down the pier, rent bikes, just like bike around. There is like I don't know, probably like 20-mile, like
Yeah,
beachfront.
I've been to Huntington, oh, 2, 3, 4 times. Love it there. Been to Disneyland. Love
Mhm.
Disneyland. So really, really enjoy Orange County. All right. So last question. You watch a lot of movies. What's your favorite movie?
I would have to say between trains, planes, automobiles, and the Dutch.
Really? In Fletch?
Dutch. It's also
Wow.
like an old like 90s, like same kind of mood.
I'm shocked that Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That is a fantastic John Candy, Steve
Yeah.
Martin. Wow.
I
I
love
would
John Candy. I think Uncle Buck is like my like pretty close up there.
Uncle Buck. Uncle Buck is an excellent movie.
Also Chicago.
Oh yeah, John Candy, big time Chicago guy. So wow, was not expecting that because you seem pretty young to be really into the Uncle Buck Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So I'm impressed. That's some good old comedy from the like
Yeah, those are
early
great.
90s.
And Dutch is like also an excellent.
All right, so mine's Braveheart. Always has been, probably
Nice.
always will
That's
be.
a good one.
So all
Yeah.
right. Well, and I can't thank you enough for joining us. How can people get in touch with you? So, like right now, maybe you're looking at bringing on. Are you looking at bringing on people for your team or
Not
PlayVS?
immediately, but I think LinkedIn probably is the best.
So what? So go to LinkedIn and search for you, find you, Play Versus. They should follow the company for
Yep.
sure. And for anyone who is listening and going, man, I want this in my high school. I want my kids to have it in their high school. How can they get a hold or get in touch with Play Versus, or do they need to reach out to their administration? How can they find a way to you guys?
I think the best way is to go to playversus.com, and there is a big button at the top, schedule consultation, and we have an excellent team of account managers that will reach out, and they're super responsive and super knowledgeable.
That's awesome. All right. So hopefully there's a bunch of people listening going, gosh, this is so cool. You can have an esports team and they can be part of statewide, nationwide competitions and stuff like that. That'd be fantastic for my kids or our school, or I wish I had it, or maybe it is a high school kid going right now, I want this. And this is a great way to bring this to my school. So go to playversus.com and schedule a consultation. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we also have a referral program going on right now. So once you log in, and if you're a student with a school with no coach, there are some good incentives for you to nominate somebody to coach a program.
That's fantastic. Well, I'd love to check in a year and hear how the school systems have doubled and tripled for you guys, and you guys have made a bigger and bigger impact with the high school students. It's fantastic what you're doing, and I really, really appreciate you joining us today. And I wish I could try yours. How do you say it? How do you say the pierogi again?
Vareniki.
Yeah, I wish I could try yours. I've had them. They're awesome. They taste great. I made my own. It wasn't so good, but I like the ones the restaurant made. So thank you again for joining us. This was a ton of fun, and we will see you soon. To everyone else, goodbye.
Next in